And hello again. Hope you're having a great weekend. This is the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. My name is Randy Cook, and each week Mark and I sit down here and talk a little bit about what's going on economically, financially, what's in the financial news. But then at the same time, how does that affect you? You're coming up on retirement. What are you going to do? Who are you going to get to help you? Do you have an actual written plan? And we talk about a lot of that stuff and how to find that person out there who can help you through your retirement. And we hope that you consider Marc Oslar. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Randy. I hope you're doing well.
Yep. Had a good Thanksgiving, and we're on into the month of December here. And as we say, the year just kind of slips away. So if there's an opportunity to get in to see Mark and talk about your retirement before the end of the year, take advantage of that, because I imagine it's kind of fast and furious at this time of the year for you, isn't it, Mark?
It is. Oh, my gosh. Come on in. Now's the time to actually jump on some things for the next year. December is one of the best months to actually have the conversation and talk and just chat and gear up for the following year, because you know what? When are you going to do it? Oh, after January 1st? Come on, guys. Come on in.
Yeah, December is a time when people who are in retirement are making decisions about things like Medicare and Advantage plans and supplemental plans. They're also looking at RMDs. They have a 401k at age 73. The government says you got to take this much out. You got to figure that out. So there's certain things when you're in retirement that you got to do at the end of the year. But there's also times when we're not in retirement yet, and there's a window of opportunity that closes on December 31st. So then there's another window that closes on April 15th. So getting all of that in line and having that conversation is really important. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, is planning into the new year. One of the things that I like to do is, at this time of the year, people start predicting what's going to happen in the new year. So I went back to 2024 and what they were predicting about 2025. And I thought, well, let's look at that. And one of the big things that they were all talking about was 2025 is going to be a great year to retire because interest rates are still up. It's good for retirees. Okay, now we're getting to 2026. Interest rates aren't so good now. They've been going down all year, and they probably will continue to go down. That is a little out of the cards right now. But then there's a couple of other good things. We've had 3 good years in a row of the market. We've seen some really good growth. And then also, we're getting this new tax deduction in the big, beautiful bill, which is $6,000 per person after the age of 65. So that's a good thing. So how do we spin this into an advantage, Mark? I mean, looking at going in, if somebody were to say to you, Mark, I'm ready to retire. I think my money's ready to retire. But is 2026 a good year to retire? Should that really enter into the conversation?
I think it always should enter into the conversation. Obviously, we want to see, can you retire, and is it a good year to retire in? Well, how do we factor that? Well, the first thing we want to do is look at your assets. We want to look at your assets, and then we want to look at your expenditures too. So we want to understand exactly what you're going to need for retirement. So we talk about the 3 main things and the 3 focuses, Randy. We got that acronym PIG, right? We're going to shoot around some basketball, eliminate somebody in the game of pig or horse. This one's PIG. It's preservation, income, and growth. We stick to those things. Those are the things that tell us how we can retire and retire effectively. So if you ask me the ways we do it, we ask you about your overall situation. We try to understand exactly what kind of income level you're going to need in retirement. And that could be a basis of factors of, do we pay off some debt or not, right? These are some things that come up, and we want to understand, does this make sense? And then, of course, you've been in this accumulation stage of your life, your whole life, which means you're trying to make as much money as possible, make as much, gather it up, store it up, kind of like squirrels do, right? But guess what? The squirrels also put it in a safe place. And so the question is, do you want a preservation tactic, right? If you're going to put something into a preservation tactic, maybe we look at, how do we get the income to have some kind of the rider on it that gives you some kind of guaranteed lifetime income, like an annuity. So that might be an option, because I had a gentleman ask me the other day, well, I need this certain amount of money in retirement. How can I get this to be certain? Well, there's only a few certainties in life, but I can tell you that with regards to fixed index annuities or fixed annuities, they have these riders that are called guaranteed lifetime income riders. And I said, well, look, if you want to make it simple, if you want to at least put a lifetime income rider and get half of that income and work the rest out as part of the plan, this is how you can do it. So income is a huge part of it, right? Preservation's a big part of it. Growth is also a good part of it. So what are the factors we want to play in? What are the areas that we don't mind taking a little bit of risk in for some reward? And can we balance that risk as well? And so these are all the things that come up. But the year is important because why? We've had all these up years in the market, and that's why we bring up preservation. Because if you've gathered up all this money, do you want to have some preservation tactics for the income provisions as you grow your money in retirement?
Yeah, we've used the term in the past, the all-weather portfolio. You think of an all-weather tire on your car, good in the snow, good in the rain, good when it's hot, good when it's dry, all these different conditions. And then think about your retirement. You're going to have a lot of different conditions probably. We've gone through high inflation and low inflation. We've gone through up years in the market and down years in the market. We've gone through high taxes and then there's lower taxes. And people think there's higher taxes in the future. So what I think is the main thing, I don't want to sit on a cruise in the Caribbean with one eye on the beautiful sunset and another eye on Fox Business. That's not what I want in life. and so what we want to do is be able to have that kind of an attitude for you as well. Let's get the investments, the retirement planning, and get it taken care of. Not a set it and forget it like you're never going to see Mark again, because you are going to check in. You are going to, things are going to change in your life. Things are going to change in the economy. Let's get that plan that is specifically suited to you. Here's the number. Here's the website. If it's time to have that conversation about your retirement, let's get that conversation going. You can start here, more2retire.com. Just spell it right out, more2retire.com. Bottom of the page is a place for you to put some information in there. Mark and the team will reach out to you and schedule a meeting. Let's get something on a calendar. Or just call, bypass all that, and just have a conversation about what's concerning you. 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. It's a no-cost, no-obligation meeting. All right, so one of the things that people do as they get toward retirement, we've got these 401ks, and everybody says, well, what you do is you got to get that into your control. So you move that money over to an IRA, your own personal IRA. Now the world is your oyster, as they say. You have lots to choose from. Well, the people at Vanguard said there's lots of people right now that are doing that, moving the 401k over to their own IRA. But then it just sits. 28% of the people roll over the money to cash, and it just sits there for 7 years. So, Mark, you've told us that, once you get it into your control, now you've got lots of choices. These people are not making those choices, and I'm wondering why. I'm wondering if they see their account go up and down all the time, and then all of a sudden it's not going up and down all the time. That feels kind of good. I kind of like that. What do you see happening here that people are just leaving it kind of in a safe and cash kind of a place?
Sure. So I've seen this many times where people will just roll their 401k over. It just sits over there in cash, and sometimes they'll stick it in a money market account. Most recently, I came across one of my clients that had done that when he was leaving service from his previous provider. He was retiring, but then he went on to do a little bit more work because he decided he didn't want to fully retire. Okay. And, he rolled it over to Vanguard, as a matter of fact, put it in the money market, sitting there, just earning a little bit of interest. Then we sat down and had a conversation. We talked about some different things, and hey, the bottom line is in this particular client's situation, they had a lot of preservation tactics in their portfolio between a lot of real estate, annuities, bank money and stuff like that. So we looked at this money as, hey, maybe we could look at some of the market stuff that we do and the custom models that we do and what we would do differently. And obviously make more than what you're making in the money market account. So we had that conversation, and like I said before in the past on the show, I'm one of only 300 advisors in the country that has access to our Market Guard platform, which is proprietary to us. And what we try to do is we try to look at that first before we get into some other tactics, simply because we know that we're going to keep the internal expense ratio low by using Market Guard. And that's an effective way to go about it, because the biggest expense we want you to see is the expense that we charge as a fee, under that area, under our fiduciary standard of care, right? So ultimately, when we open you up to this stuff, we're also looking at it from an active standpoint. We want to look and see how we make adjustments and changes. If you look just at our pure equity model, that changes on a quarterly basis. So it happens to change every 3 months. It doesn't matter what happens it's going to change. And right there and then, we're keeping up with things because we want to be effective. So if we're going to take some risk in the market, we want it to be calculated.
Well, one of the things about somebody who is not into risk, they're very conservative. If you took a look in their portfolio, they may have their emergency savings at the bank. That makes them feel good. It's liquid and it's not going up and down with the market. Then there's CDs, then there's money markets, maybe there's annuities. And when you look at all that, you are all on the lower side of the ledger as far as risk is concerned. And maybe you don't want to have a lot of risk in there, but there should be some growth. We talk about preservation, income, and growth. Are we achieving all three? Now, there's probably some products out there that you say, well, I get one thing out of it. I get two things out of it. I can get all three. And that's where we have to look at the options. And that's the conversation you can have with Marc, talking about where your money needs to be, where it could be, the options for your money for having preservation, income, and growth. Let's have that conversation. Moretoretire.com is the website, moretoretire.com, or 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. That's a no-cost, no-obligation meeting about your retirement. So financial advisors, they put that retirement plan in your hands, and you're hoping it's going to work. Well, this was an interesting study that came out, and only half of advisors felt that their clients were financially ready to retire, and only 11% believe that they're emotionally ready to retire. So they're literally putting a plan in somebody's hands and going, hope this works. That's crazy to me, Marc. So I want to ask you, because you see people on all manners of this spectrum. They start from scratch with you, or they may have a plan already, and they come to you and they say, Marc, does this look like it's going to work? I'm worried that there might be something missing here. Have you looked at other plans and go, wow, this just doesn't look like it's going to work? There's all sorts of flaws here. Does that happen regularly?
Regularly.
Oh,
yes, it does. Yeah, no, it's truthfully. I mean, I have people come in and I'm like, okay, they got plenty of assets. They don't have anything to worry about, but we could definitely do some things differently here,
okay,
right? But then I have some people to come in and I say, what the heck is this advisor thinking? I mean, I'll give you an example. I had a person come into my office and wonderful person, and they happen to have a sizable portfolio. And it's just enough to kind of, balance, and they want to take a certain percentage off of that. And that's how they're monitoring it. Ready for this? All of it is in that portfolio, and there's no other assets, as in maybe a few $1,000s in the bank at the most. Randy, I thought, and I asked them, why is it all in that portfolio? And the person told me, because when the person's parent passed away, they said that the broker said to her, well, just give me all of it and I'll make it work for you. That was the answer.
Wow.
On top of that, Randy, I looked at, I'm talking to a gentleman right now, and I know for a fact he has more than $1.2 million. That's just his market money. In addition to, he had just opened up an annuity. It's going to be 2 years old for about $400,000. It's going to be in April of 2026. So we're just analyzing this annuity, and then we're looking at his brokerage portfolio. That's like $1.2 million. And I know of the other assets he has. He has real estate, other things. But this broker / insurance professional on both sides put in the financial information, and I dropped to the floor. It's totally incorrect. It doesn't have all the information. It also has much lower income provisions. I thought, why are these guys so lazy? I think it's laziness sometimes. And then sometimes I think it's just they put in the effort. But I'll be honest with you, Randy, if we're just focusing on accumulation, we could fail. We could.
Yeah.
We've got to put some things in place that we feel a little bit more secure about, right? So that those are the conversations we want to have.
Yeah, I think that the reason I did this story is because I always say there's two kinds of people that listen to this show. You either have a financial advisor with a plan, or you don't. And you're going to start from scratch, and that is okay. We all have to start someplace, and maybe there's something that's holding you back right now. You made a mistake or something like that. Forget about all that. We'll take you from right where you are right now and build from there. But there are others of you who have a financial plan, and you listen to this show and you wonder, is it right? Is it missing something? Is it still good for me? I did this 5 years ago. Is it still good? I encourage you, give Marc a call and let him take a look at it. And if there's some glaring errors there, let's point those out. I would rather have that happen to me before retirement than when I'm in retirement and find out I got a big tax problem or I don't have enough income or something like that happens. Let's get all that out on the table. Let's do that second opinion review. Marc will do that for you. No charge. MoreToRetire.com is the website. MoreToRetire.com. There's a place at the bottom of the page to put some information in there. Marc reaches out to you, or you can reach out to us right now. It's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. When you think about the places you can put your money, there's not a whole lot of choices. I mean, you could go stock market, you can go bank, you could go insurance company, you can go real estate. That's pretty much it. I mean, everything kind of falls into those categories. Well, the people at Allianz, which is an insurance company, every year go out there and they do this study about the state of retirement and how people are feeling about things. And everybody's still worried about the same stuff. It's inflation, it's healthcare, and it's running out of money. Same stuff every year. This came out of this survey that I thought was kind of interesting. It said, rather than chasing high returns, many people are interested in these three things: consistency, protection, and predictability. 92% of people in this particular study said they want some kind of guaranteed income in their retirement portfolio. So they just want to simplify things. Marc, I walked away from work. I don't want to work anymore. I walked away from a paycheck. Give me a paycheck. That's kind of what they're saying here. And they want it predictable. They want it consistent, and they want to preserve their money. So it's kind of the same stuff we talk about every week here, isn't it?
It is. And this is where I try to understand a person's mentality, because they'll tell me the A word, annuities. I don't want to hear about annuities anymore. I don't want to hear about annuities anymore. But I have a military pension. But I retire from so-and-so, and I've got this pension over here. Do you realize what that pension is?
It's an annuity.
It's an annuity.
Yeah,
it's an annuity. It is an immediate annuity that just counts as income. It doesn't count as an asset, right?
I'm going to get Social Security, Marc. That's good for me, right? That's an annuity.
That's an annuity.
Yeah. So, I mean, all this stuff. So if somebody said to me one time that if that's the way you feel about it, think about this. You're going in for an operation and the surgeon is right there and they're just about to put the mask over your face and say, count backwards from 100. And right before you get there, the surgeon goes, 1/3 of these instruments that are in this place, get them out of here. And the nurse goes, why would you do that? And he goes, I don't like those instruments. I never use them. Well, what if you needed them? I mean, and in your financial life, what if you needed those instruments? And not just the markets and not just real estate. Maybe you need something from an insurance company. And that can be an option for you with what people want here, and that's guaranteed income in retirement.
Yes, consistency, preservation, and predictability. That is the definition of a pension, which would be an immediate annuity, which means it just counts as income, doesn't count as an asset any longer. But we have this other advantage over here. If you got a pile of money and you're just asking for these things and you want, well, Marc, I do want to be sure of this income. Okay, well, I can be somewhat okay with it in certain areas. We can look at different brokerage things and say, I know that this does this, this does this, this does this, and we can have some type of projection. But if you're going to do an immediate annuity or a deferred annuity with a guaranteed lifetime income rider, then there's your predictability. Mm-hmm. You know what you're going to get. If it says X, you're going to get X. That's just it. So if you say you hate annuities, but you're asking for this, I'm sorry, you're contradicting yourself. Let's just figure out what would be a good fit for you, how much will be a good fit for you, and we can move on from there. But to be honest with you, Randy, it's really important to understand this, because if a person's asking for this, you got to know what you're asking for.
Yeah. There's a lot of different ways to get paid in retirement, and I want to look at all those options. I want to look at what, how you're going to change my 401k into a paycheck. What, how am I going to get paid? I need a monthly paycheck in retirement. If that's still kind of foggy in your life and what you're saying is, well, I've saved all this in my 401k, I'll just peel money off the top as I need it. That's not income. That's just depleting your assets. You need income in retirement. We talk about it every week here. PIG, preservation, income, and growth. If you don't have all three of those, that's the pillars that we need to talk about when it comes to your retirement. MoreToRetire.com is the website. Start right there. Tool around a little bit, learn more about Mark and the team. And there's a place at the bottom of the page there that you can put some information, say, I have a question about this. I haven't started my retirement planning yet. I need to know where to go. I need to know where to start. I need to know what to bring. That is a great place to start. Let's get the conversation going. Or call 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. We're going to talk about next year, and one of the things that you might want to change is your designations with your 401k. You may have new options in there, and we're going to talk about that coming up next on the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience.
A simple piece of paper. It's something we use every day. For the most part, it does what it's designed to do. It sits there flat on your desk as a placeholder for information. But with a couple strategic folds, suddenly your flat piece of paper becomes an airplane and flies across the room. Your 401k is kind of like that flat piece of paper. It just sits there as a placeholder for your money. Marc Oslar can show you those strategic moves to take your 401k from just sitting there to creating the income you need for retirement. Call today for a free no-obligation meeting. 984-300-1984. That's 984-300-1984. Or online at moreToRetire.com.
Welcome back to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Online, find Mark at moreToRetire.com. Just spell it right out there, moreToRetire.com. If it's time to talk about your retirement and really actually get down to the nuts and bolts of planning and finding out what your 401k will do, find out what Social Security will do, find out what you're going to do about Medicare, find out what you're going to do about taxes, let's do this. It's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. Well, if you go back 10 years to 2015 and took a look at employer plans, like your 401k, about 60% of plans had a Roth 401k option. Today, that's up to 95%. So when we talk about Roth 401ks, you probably have access to one. So if somebody is looking at their 401k and they're getting toward retirement, they might be thinking this: how much should I have in a traditional 401k and how much should I have in the Roth 401k, and should I make an adjustment there? So Mark, can you tell us the difference between the two, the traditional and the Roth 401k, and then how do we make our decision how much should be in each?
So this is a great subject to talk about here. One of the things that I want to bring up first and foremost is, do you need a tax break? So some folks are really doing the traditional thing because they need a tax break, right? That's money that's coming out pre-tax, so you don't have to be taxed on that money. Anything you're taking out for the Roth 401k, that's post-tax. So you've already paid tax on that money. It comes out that way. If you don't mind doing it that way, then I always tell people, look, do all Roth, because if you don't mind it and doesn't really hurt the bottom line and you're not seeing it, then go ahead and do all Roth if you can afford to do it that way. That's really the most understandable way, because obviously in the future, after certain provisions in the Internal Revenue Code, you're going to have it to be income tax free for you, the growth and everything. So it's just a matter of what's going to be the best case scenario for you. But essentially, when we look at these 401ks with clients now, it's funny because I don't know. You see on the statements, it might tell you it's both, or it might tell you none of that. But either way, you still have to call to find out the exact figures, because it's confusing. I mean, there's contributory amounts, all that stuff. And so you have to do is call a provider and get the exact breakdown. Most recently, when we did a rollover, I found out it was almost half-half for the Roth and the traditional. And then in addition to that, there was a little individual amount too. And this could pop up on the radar. You just don't know. You got to ask these questions. That's why, because as an advisor, you don't want to make a tax mistake. So you want to check with the providers and make sure that that's where it's at and how it's actually titled, right? But in terms of investing, if you can afford to do it where it doesn't hurt your bottom line, go all Roth.
One of the things I found out about this, and I don't know if it's the case with everybody, I think it is general knowledge, and that is, you have a traditional 401k, and maybe your employer matches a little bit there. And so when you take that out, that's all taxable money when you take it out in the traditional one. When you do the Roth 401k and your company matches, the growth that you have is tax-free, but you still have to take taxes out on the match. So that was one thing that I just learned about our particular plan. So now let's talk a little bit about this whole idea of a conversion. Maybe people are 3, 5, 7 years away, or maybe just right on the edge of retirement, but they think, now that I'm not going to have the income that I had from my job, maybe in retirement, I'll do some of these conversions you talk about, moving money from the traditional 401k over to a Roth. So how do we make the decision if you're a good person, a good candidate for this, I should say? And is it all about looking at tax tables and things like that? Talk to me about that a little bit.
This is a great subject to come up. And just because you just made this one comment, I want to bring this up really quickly too. Think about it this way. Do you want to pay taxes on the deposit or the remaining sum of money later on? That's the way you look at the difference with traditional and Roth. Because if you're paying on the deposit now, obviously it's a smaller sum of money that you're doing it little by little by little, as opposed to having this huge taxable deposit later. And so that's really the conversation. And that's why I bring that up. Now, with regards to conversions, folks, if it's brokerage accounts, we can roll over a traditional, we can open up a Roth IRA that's completely unfunded, and we can begin to fund it how you want to. We can start doing conversions and doing those things. There are folks that they try to figure out exactly where they're going to be in their taxable bracket, based on retirement or even before retirement. So we have these conversations. Should we start the conversions now? Well, one of the subjects that comes up is required minimum distributions. So if you're born 1959 or before, your required minimum distribution is going to start at 73 years old. It's the required amount the IRS says you have to take out of your traditional accounts each and every year, right? So it generally starts close to the 4% category. It's a factoring table. The factoring table lowers each year, which means the percentage of what you have to take out slightly ticks up each and every year from that point. Now, if you're born 1960 or after, you don't have to take an RMD until you are 75 years old. Now, this is important to understand because if we're trying to do this based on the fact that we don't want to take this taxable distribution in the future, then obviously we can start to make plans for this money so we don't get hit with that taxable distribution in the future. And we know that the future of the growth is income tax free 5 years after each conversion, right? So the growth after each conversion is tax free after each and every 5 years. Now, with that being said, your contributions are always available for withdrawal. So there's so many different ways to go about this, where if we didn't take withdrawals from it that are tax-free, we can do it from the contributions before we do it from the growth.
There's a lot to talk about when it comes to your 401k. I mean, it seems like such a simple thing. I put money in there from my check every 2 weeks. I use it in retirement. But there's some tax issues that go along with your 401k. It does get worse as you get older, and that's why you might want to address that right now. It's good to have that conversation about your 401k, and for many of us, it's going to be our biggest retirement asset. Treat it as such. Give Mark a call. MoreToRetire.com is the website. 984-300-1984 is the number. 984-300-1984. And that is a no cost, no obligation meeting. Let's just talk about your retirement, put something down on paper, give you a good look, answer your questions. It's such a vital time now to have this meeting. MoreToRetire.com or 984-300-1984. I know that we're not talking about hurricanes at this time of the year. We're talking more about snowstorms across the United States. But, whenever there is one of those big storms out on the coast and it destroys a bunch of homes and it's all terrible and everything, there's people that come in there and they say they're a roofer, but they might take your money and do half the job and disappear. There are bad actors out there that kind of pop up when there's an opportunity. People who sell bottled water for $10 a bottle. You hear it all the time. I think that this is another situation that we're going to have to look at when it comes to retirement, because on an average year in the United States, about 1 million people retire. After COVID, that number went up to 3.5 million. In the last couple of years, it's now up to 4 million. 4 million people a year are retiring, and it keeps going up. Baby boomers are at the end of this thing, and they're all starting to move into retirement. but there has got to be, and I think there's going to be, people who take advantage of this. Mark, all these people that need retirement help, I got to believe there's some bad actors that are going to pop up. So what would you say, what are the red flags? If somebody goes sees a financial advisor and doesn't get quite the right feel, what are the red flags that they could be looking for that they might want to turn around and go the other direction?
Pressure.
Okay. If you don't make the decision by this Wednesday, this deal goes away. Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying I'm not persistent. I will contact people and keep up with them and let them know, hey, this is changing. Hey, that is changing. Hey, interest rates are going to affect this environment.
Okay.
Hey, this has changed or this is adjusted and switched. Are you sure you don't want to take a look at this now? I'm proactive because I know the environment matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
The financial environment matters. So as from the brokerage side of the business, that's the fiduciary standard of care. You got to put people's needs first. So objectively, you don't just leave them alone. You got to let them know, hey, this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. But if you're feeling pressure that a person is like, look, we need to do this and we need to do this now and this has to happen, well, then maybe you ought to second guess why this is coming up, okay? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, this person, if they have their needs ahead of your own, you got to question that as well. You got to really figure out, is this the case? The other thing is products ahead of service. Okay. So, Randy, you brought this up to me before. It's true. There are guys that just peddle products. I remember there's another advisor in the area. He was having a seminar, and a client of mine came up to me and he told me, hey, I mentioned this company and this product to this advisor, and he just basically kind of shunned it and was like, no, I got something better than that. And he kind of just peddled products throughout the seminar. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I'm sorry, but that's just not how it works. The way it works in my office is we say, okay, let's take a look at your positions. Now, if it's in brokerage, you can go to my website, moretoretire.com. That's moretoretire.com. And there's a secure upload button that you can send it to me. My associate, Chris, will take it and upload it, and it'll be a secure upload, and I'll take a look and I'll run a report on it. Now, if it's also annuities and stuff like that, we can analyze that in all the different software. What we do is, if you come into my office, we'll share it on the big screen. And if you do it by Zoom, I'll just screen share with you. And we'll screen share with you the difference with brokerage products, insurance products, and we'll answer all of the questions that you might have about your overall situation. And that's why I want you to see the stuff that we do, not give you an example of what we should do, but get an idea, because we will get an idea after a couple of appointments. Then at least by the third appointment, we can come up and say, okay, I think I have an idea of what we should do here. This is what I'm thinking. But I want you to know it's always adjustable, changeable. We are flexible. We're always willing to move around. But you're not going to receive pressure here. You might get some persistence from time to time from me because I have to. I have to reach out and be honest with you. Mm-hmm. But no, pressure, not going to happen here.
Yeah, if in the first 10 minutes somebody looks at you and says, boy, have I got a variable annuity for you. Red flag. Yeah, watch yourself when it comes to that kind of a situation. You're listening to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience, and to sit down and talk to Marc about your retirement and actually put a pencil to paper and say, okay, this is what I've done for retirement. This is what I want to do in retirement. I want to make sure my needs are taken care of. I got a couple of wants out there. I got a couple of dreams out there. Can we do all of this? It's going to take some math. It's going to take some number crunching. And if you've not done that yet, let's get that underway. Website is moretoretire.com. At the bottom of the page is a place for you to put a little information, a question, whatever you'd like there. I'm concerned about this. This is my big question. I don't have any tax planning at all with the person that I'm with. Just write that in there. Marc will reach out and get that conversation going. Or you could just start here. It's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. Get a date on a calendar and sit down and talk about your retirement. All right, Ask the Advisor column. I go to MarketWatch and MoneyWise and all these different places, and somebody's right on the edge of retirement, and they know that they're supposed to have less risk. He says, what do you recommend with my 401k if I'm going to retire this year? Do I move to money markets? Do I move to CDs? Do I move to annuities? What exactly is safe? So let's talk about that a little bit. We talk about this all the time. De-risking your money. What does that mean? Does it mean all the way down to money market, CDs, cash, and annuities?
Well, first and foremost, if you're 59 and a half and you got a 401k, we need to go ahead and have a conversation, or you need to have a conversation with someone else, because I never, ever look at a situation and say, oh yeah, keep your money in a 401k. I don't, because if you're going to roll your money to an IRA, you're opening yourself up to so many different options and things that you can do that you can't do in your 401k. So if you are going to retire this year and you still have a 401k, you need to have a conversation with a financial advisor. I would love to have a conversation with you, but any good financial advisor will do. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to have a conversation about your income needs. So we go right back to that preservation, income, and growth. What are we going to preserve for retirement? What kind of income do we need in retirement? Do we need a guaranteed lifetime income rider through something like an annuity or not? In that income, and when we get that income, how are taxes and inflation going to impact that, and how can we prepare for that? And then growth, what's a sensible amount of growth in retirement while we're doing all of the three things that we're doing here, and how can we go about that? So I don't mind some risk in retirement, just a matter of how much risk you can balance. I had a client come to me not long ago, and she had rolled some 401ks and some IRAs and transferred some IRAs and stuff like that. And I told the client about retirement, and based on, can you retire 59 and a half versus 62? And essentially I said, look, you can retire 59 and a half, but you're going to have to take some risk. 62, you have a little bit more of a balance of not having to take as much risk, maybe no risk when you retire at 62. But this person decided to retire at 59 and a half. And so what we have to do is look at what kind of managed risk are we going to do here and how we're going to go about that. But what I always say is, if you got a 401k and you're going to retire in the next 12 months, we need to have a conversation, because you need to start putting some planning and provisions in place.
And what a lot of people, if you just mention these two words, stock market, they think risk and they get scared. Do you have to be in the stock market at high risk? I mean, does those two words mean high risk? Can you be in the stock market at a lower risk level?
Yes. One of the things that we like to look at to balance some of the risk are structured notes. I mentioned this before in the past. We talk about alternative investments like structured notes. I'll give you an example of a couple different notes. One's a growth note. One's an income note. The difference really comes down to how they work. And essentially, if you're allocated to certain indexes within the note, well, you're not actually in any of those indexes.
Okay.
Because the structured note itself is a derivative. So the bank creates this idea, poof, they make money, and then you invest in the idea. So the bank will pay out how the parameters of the contract state. So if you get into a structured note, and let's say it's uncapped and it's based on 3 different indexes, and they'll give you the least returning of those indexes over a 2-year period of time, then you'll get whatever it says at the end of those 2 years based on the parameters of that note. Now, with that, they might build in a buffer. What's a buffer? Well, a buffer is where a bank will assume the first 20% loss. So that means that if it's down anywhere 0 to 20% over a 2-year period of time, then you're not going to lose any money off your money when you get it back. But if it drops more than 20%, let's say it drops to 30%, then that means you will lose 10% because the bank's taking the first 20% loss. Now, that's a little different from a barrier. When I was looking at an income note recently, there was a barrier. It just said if this particular index was positive for the year, it would pay this certain rate of return at the end of the year. There are other ones that work monthly as well. But the way this one worked is it had a barrier. This barrier was 30%. The difference of the buffer and a barrier is if you break the barrier, the entire loss is your loss. So up to this 30% loss, the person will get their money back. But if it breaks to 35, you lose 35.
Okay.
Still, again, if it's over a course of a year, there's definitely some protective barriers there. And we'll just call them preservation tactics there. But essentially, structured notes are used to break up correlation in a portfolio and also maybe build in some preservation tactics that maybe you don't currently have. And then there's some other areas people like to pick some REITs or some folks like to pick some income plans or we're talking about just different things, stock dividends. There's a lot of different areas we can pick that might have a little less risk, right? But I also mentioned our pure equity model balances the risk as well by lowering the scientific risk of the beta. And that's based on putting it across a lot of different sectors and changing it every 3 months. So there's so many different ways to look at it, but you can be in the market and you can have high risk and lower risk. And another example will be a guy, he showed me a portfolio. Gentleman had done an annuity on him, and then he had some brokerage money. And the brokerage money was a significant amount of money. And when I saw the positions he was in, it's only about 12 different positions, and one of the positions had over 40% of the money. And we calculated the beta came in at 1.45. That's really high. That tells me that is a huge wobble effect. And if you're trying to get, we'll call it some preservation and retirement, that's not the way to do it, because you just don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to get out of it. So these are some examples of what we talk about when we discuss how do we manage risk. Now, if you don't want the risk, you don't have to have the risk. You could be in a CD. You could be in a treasury. You could be in an annuity. I could show you the difference between a growth annuity versus an income annuity, and we could show you the difference with how they work. And we could show you through the software as well. If you have an annuity that you had anywhere from the year 2018 till now, and let's say it has to be at least 2 years old, let's kind of have a conversation about if it's the appropriate annuity for you for your future as well.
You're listening to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience at moreToRetire.com. Check out Marc today. There's a lot of different options out there. I mean, what Marc just described, I didn't understand all of it. You might not have understood all of it either. But what I like is the idea that I can go and sit down and talk about this risk level, that risk level, and lower risk levels. And it sounds to me like there's a lot of options out there that I didn't know about and maybe you didn't know about as well. Let's talk through all of it for you. Give Marc a call. Here's the number, 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984, or the website is moreToRetire.com. Just spell it right out. At the bottom of the page, there's a place for you to put some information in there, some contact information, and say, hey, can you give me a call? I'd like to get these questions answered. I am worried about the markets. I'm worried about taxes. I'm worried about whatever it is. Let's get your worries off the table. moreToRetire.com or 984-300-1984. Well, if you go to see a financial advisor, you're going to come in with some kind of an attitude, some kind of a thought in your head. One of them might be, gee, I've done a great job. I can't wait to hear what this person has to say. The other one might be, I don't know if I've done enough. I don't even know if I can retire. It's opposite ends of the spectrum, and Marc handles all of them. And so according to a new survey from TIAA, you've heard of those, nearly 2/3 of Americans between the ages of 65 and 70, this is prime retirement area, they believe that retirement is unattainable. Okay, they're going in with the attitude, I don't think I can retire. I've talked to people all the time that say, I just got to work till I die, Randy. I didn't save enough. And to these people, Marc, I say, how do you know unless you sit down and actually do the math? So if someone comes in and they're just really pessimistic about their retirement possibilities, talk to me about that person. I'm sure you've dealt with that.
Oh, yeah. You know, there's a lot of folks. I mean, we're all different human beings, right? God created us all, and we're all very different. But that's a good thing, because that's for the beauty of God. What we try to do is identify the type of person you are by asking you a lot of questions. And what we want to do is get to know you. And then we want to build a relationship with you. If you just sit down with us and just have a conversation, I'm not going to bite your finger. I'm not going to chase you down the road if you walk out of my office. And if you tell me not to call you, I'm not going to call you. Okay? But have a conversation with me. It can't hurt. Simply put, show me what you got, and I'll tell you what you could do about it. Mm-hmm. And if you feel like you can't work with it, I'll tell you if I don't think you can work with it, and I think if you have to still have to work, I'll just be completely honest with you. But I could also tell you where you can change some things, maybe adjust some things, shift. It's okay to shift. We talked about the book, Who Moved My Cheese in here before, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't change or shift or adjust, you're going to get your feet stuck in the mud. So go to my website, moreToRetire.com, share your financial data with me. You can block off your account numbers and stuff like that. Perfectly fine. Won't hurt my feelings. That's not what we need when we run reports or answer questions about different products. What we need is to see the data so we can answer your questions. And to be honest, if you don't think you have enough, a lot of times folks don't realize this, but they do actually have enough, and we can have this conversation. We know so much about these different financial products that you don't have the same access to. And so we can share some information and some data with you that you didn't realize was available. There's also a lot of different things on the tax advantage side of things where we'll involve tax professionals if we need to. And the estate planning side will involve the attorneys and things like that. But again, we're on the front line with you, trying to answer these questions for you, because I think we probably have the solutions for you.
Well, you won't know unless you actually sit down and crunch the numbers. And wouldn't that be a great day where you walk in and you think, there's no way I'm getting a yes, and there's no way I'm getting a green light on this thing, and you do. And what a great day that would be. Or to say, you know what, if you did this or worked one more year, it is possible. And that's what Marc wants to sit down and talk to you about. Let's give you what your options are. Do you want to stop now? Do you want to work another year? Do you want to have that power where you're working and say, I can leave at any time I want to? And that's a whole new attitude when you're 65 years old and you're still going to work. Give Marc a call. Let's have the meeting. MoreToRetire.com is the website. Start there, tool around, learn more, and go through these 5 steps to more that Marc has there. It'll go right through exactly what happens when you go through a meeting. Or just give him a call. It's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. Remember the podcast, again, the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience on iTunes and Spotify. If you missed part of the show, it's right there, and a bunch of shows as well that you can tool through. We hope you have a great weekend, and we'll join you next week right here, same time on the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Marc Oslar Retirement Experience is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Marc Oslar Retirement Experience are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be considered as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Marc Oslar Retirement Experience is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute legal or tax advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein are provided by third parties that have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Market Guard is a firm that provides investment signals as well as portfolio allocation recommendations for a wide variety of model portfolios. Market Guard does not offer advice or enter into fiduciary relationships. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.